Trott is a person who can do that. He turns just wood and metal into traditional hand tools used by woodworkers and furniture makers. The former film set dresser is also a Churchill Fellowship recipient and is going to head overseas next year to learn from some of the best hand tool makers in the business. ABC's Joe Prince spoke to him at his workshop.
I've sort of fallen back into my passion, which was woodworking, assisting on chair classes, making Windsor chairs with a fellow maker here, Glenn Rundle. And from that, I started to realise the need for, high quality hand tools for crafts and trades, in Australia.
So tell me about this, because I'm thinking in a world where AI and 3D printing is all the rage, why the traditional tools, I guess, and the traditional things that you make using the tools?
Yeah, it's been a passion of mine ever since I was young, woodworking and, making things out of wood. Along with that came a real passion for tools as well, old tools. I always had this there was something a bit magic for me in a really old tool, and something that had been, especially something that had been used for, years and years and years, was obviously someone's sort of favourite tool, an old chisel that had been ground down to a little nub. I was always sort of fascinated by that. Someone would obviously grab for that chisel time and time and time again. So I found that once I started getting into tool making, that passion was sort of reignited. I realised that I could actually be making tools that could be someone's favourite, the tool that people grab for. And so for me, that is a huge drive. I do love anything that's sort of made by hand, and then being able to support others to make by hand has been a real win for me.
What sort of demand is there? How many people are out there making things by hand?
Yeah, there is a surprisingly big demand just within Australia. Australia, for starters, has never really had a hand tool industry of making it. We always just imported all of the tools from either the UK or the US. So as that's dried up, we've noticed here in Australia that we just don't have access to good quality tools here. So within Australia, there has been a really strong demand for people. People are finding that they're not getting that hands-on experience in their day-to-day jobs. And so they're using craft or, traditional trades like this to sort of give them some hands-on time in their life. We've also, the world has opened up with the global market, and so I sell tools all around the world. So Sweden, US, UK, you name it, they go everywhere.
And I imagine that those particular places, there's a huge tradition in working with wood and making things by hand.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there is, absolutely. And I think the reason people are willing to buy tools from Australia, from someone like myself, is that we can make tools just as well, or, if not better than some of these countries. So, yeah.
All right, so explain to me some of these tools that you have here.
I make a range of carving tools for hand carving, or carving things like spoons or small intricate carving. So hook knives. So this hook knife here will do the hollow in a spoon, so it'll do the bowl in a spoon. And so I'm the only person in Australia that actually makes this tool at the moment. And then we have some other more traditional straight-bladed tools. And then I also make a range of tools that are used in chair making and furniture making as well. So draw knives, which a lot of people would probably, know the idea of what they do. And there's other tools called scorps, which do the hollowing of Windsor chair seats.
They look amazing. What sort of wood is this? It's beautiful.
I use blackwood for the handles. That's my go-to timber. I can source that locally here in Victoria, and I have a friend who's a sawyer who goes out and sort of selects timber for furniture makers and guitar makers and things like that. So so I can support his business as well.
So you're going to be doing a trip overseas to learn more.
Yeah, that's right. So I was lucky enough to get a Churchill Fellowship this year to travel over. I'll be travelling over to the US in April to study under some of the best hand tool makers over there in North Carolina and also Pennsylvania. And yeah, hopefully learn about, new tools, about the manufacturing of them, the best sort of workshop process to make those tools effectively, and hopefully bring back some knowledge to share with other makers here in Australia would be great, to try and encourage tool making here as an actual trade.
So how long has it taken you to get this far learning, and how did you do it? Where did you learn from?
It was a long journey, a long journey. I had absolutely no experience with metal until I started with this. I was always brought up just on timber. That was it. So to stumble into working with metal, it did take me quite a few years of just trial and error to start to be able to make tools that I felt were working efficiently. And I think that has been my strong point with my business, is that I do know whether or not a tool is working effectively or not. I adapt my tools as I go to try and meet the demand and make sure that they're actually hitting the mark. There aren't many tool makers. There are not many edge tool makers here. There are a lot of blacksmiths, a lot of people making kitchen knives and, say, hunting knives, those sort of items, but very few making actual hand tools. So I didn't really have anyone to learn from. There wasn't anyone making scorps. Very few people were making draw knives at the time when I started. So for me, it was learning off other tools that already existed, a lot of them being antique tools from the US